Spoilers ahead! Based on Margaret Atwood's novel, Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale is one of the most disturbing TV shows in the entire history of cinema. It's real and traumatic. Today we're counting down the top 10 unforgettable moments in The Handmaid's Tale. Let's start off with one of the best moments in the show that occurred in Season 1 when Janine gave birth. In Season 1, we're feeling all sorts of things. We don't know what happens after a handmaid does what she's told to. What happens following a pregnancy to term and giving birth? This is practically their only purpose in life, and yet the scene is frightening. The handmaids are treated like they're baby-making machines, while the commander's wives are treated like they just gave birth. I honestly can't forget the moment when the wife of the handmaid also experienced a fake birthing ritual. It's absurd. It's gross. Remember when Janine had her child, and her child was taken away from her to be given to the wife? That was heartbreaking.
Push!
Another moment I'll never be able to forget is when Emily got punished for her sexuality. The Handmaid's Tale television series proved to be really bad for people who are LGBT. It's one thing to be a straight woman with sins, but it's a whole other thing to be a lesbian. Everything about Emily's life is painful. This girl has been through a lot, including watching her partner die because of the absurd Gilead regime. They wanted her to watch, they wanted her to remember. Then, after she witnessed one of the worst moments in her life, she was genitally mutilated, meaning that now she's not able to experience sexual pleasure with a girl.
The stitches will come out in a few days. I know this is a shock for you.
Now, let's move on to a satisfying moment, one in which June finally escapes Gilead. June Osborne has finally escaped Gilead and made it to Canada in The Handmaid's Tale Season 4. And yes, this is a scene during which I cried a lot. After many struggles, after being assaulted, after being separated from her daughters, and after going through hell, Moira takes a wounded and shocked June onto the boat headed back to Canada. The fact that June wasn't sure if she wants to escape is what hurt the most. This woman had doubts about whether to escape hell because her daughter was still stuck there. By taking June to Canada, The Handmaid's Tale finally showed some progress. The progress that we all waited to see for so long. Until her escape, the show only focused on June's escape, but now, the plot is given a chance to focus on June tasting sweet revenge. Now, the protagonist is able to work outside of Gilead, which means that she can now destroy Gilead once and for all. This won't be easy. With the help of Moira and Luke, she can be able to destroy the awful regime and put her daughters to safety. Before she escapes Gilead, June was trying to stay alive for the sake of her daughters. And during one heartbreaking moment, she spoke to Luke on the phone. When the Waterfords are preparing to say goodbye to baby Nicole in Canada, they set a phone call between Luke and his wife. The fact that this was done over the phone doesn't mean it was less painful. Luke is filled with guilt over leaving his wife and his daughter, and he can't control himself, so he sobs over the phone. Another moment we'll never forget is when June kills Fred. If you felt happy when June escaped from Gilead, we can't imagine how satisfied you were feeling when she did what we all hoped for. Watching the Handmaid's Tale heroine and her fellow former handmaids kill Fred Waterford using nothing but their hands in the Season 4 finale was the most satisfying scene in the show so far. The Season 4 finale features June and her fellow handmaids chasing Fred, the person responsible for most of their sufferings, through the woods. When they catch him, they beat him to death. The moment is what we call the peak in the story. This was the moment we knew June felt peace, at least for a few seconds. Before this happened, there was a scene in which June assaulted Luke. When June finally reunites with Luke, the moment is not what we were hoping to see. The protagonist is not able to go back to her normal life, to say the least. I mean, how could she? She's been through hell and back, and we don't expect her to just live her life now. In the May 26, 2021 episode of the series, June assaults her husband. Luke tells June, "Wait," when she's on top of him, but she doesn't stop. She puts a hand over his mouth and continues what she's doing. The following day, they don't talk about what happened. It's really sad to see Luke going through all this, but all we know is that June is suffering from trauma and she needs help. June did what she suffered from and thought there were no wrongdoings. Yalin Chang, who wrote the episode, told Refinery 29, "Is it realistic, given what this particular character has gone through, given her years in Gilead and all the trauma and violence that has infused her life there, and some of which has been forced to inflict, that on this particular day right after she left Gilead, that she could instantly snap into a super healthy and tender intimate relationship with Luke? Now let's go back to the time when we learn more about Mrs. Waterford's past. According to Serena, you need to smash that like button if you haven't done it already. Now seriously, during the first season, there are flashbacks of everyone's past, including the one of Serena Joy Waterford. We find out that she's actually the architect of Gilead, as she's the published author of a book called A Woman's Place, which said the line, "Never mistake a woman's meekness for weakness." The fact that she created a regime in which she has no rights is a bit ironic. Another moment from the earlier episodes that I'll never forget is the ceremony. Call it whatever you want, but the commanders and their wives believe the words that describe this awful ritual is called the ceremony. And there's not a single word that would describe how awful this ongoing event is. The handmaids are repeatedly assaulted by their commanders each and every month, and it's gross. The whole Bible reading preparation technique is gross. Let's go back to Serena and the moment she became less of herself. One finger less.
And she shall bear upon my knees.
Serena is one of the most complicated characters in the series. We don't know about you, but there were times during which I felt sorry for her. But for most of the show, I want to see her becoming a handmaid and experiencing the things she had done to other women. When Serena decides to read the Bible in front of the commanders in order for other girls and women to know what will happen if they do so, she gets her finger cut off. This scene serves as a reminder that while the wives have a higher rank in this society, there's still women who have no rights. Now let's get into details regarding an unforgettable moment from Season 5, one in which Esther poisons herself and Janine. Esther gets into some pretty awful events that occurred just at the beginning of Season 5. She gets assigned to another commander and she suffers assault. What happens is so gross that you don't want to show too much of it. Miller said in an interview with Metacritic that storyline is a little more from Lydia and Janine's point of view, and they didn't really know what was going on in there. Because of what happened, Esther poisons herself and Janine.
What did you do? Help!
According to Miller, you need to smash that subscribe button and notification bell so you'll never miss any of our videos in the future. No, seriously, this was one of the most disturbing scenes in the show so far. See you in the next video.